Good morning, students, and welcome to today's lecture on digestive system of Amphioxus. Previously, we have studied about habit and habitat of Amphioxus. Now, in this lecture, we are going to study the digestive system of Amphioxus. Now, digestive system consists of alimentary canal and digestive gland. First of all, we are going to look upon the alimentary canal, details of alimentary canal. So, alimentary canal of Amphioxus, it is a straight tube and consists of following zones. Number one, the ingressive zone. Number two, the progressive zone. Number three, the degressive zone. And number four, the egressive zone. So, the alimentary canal, as it is a straight tube, but it is divided into four zones according to various parts of the alimentary canal. It is divided into four zones: ingressive zone, progressive zone, degressive zone, and egressive zone. One by one, we are going to look upon each zone. So we will start from the ingressive zone. The ingressive zone consists of mouth and buccal cavity. So it includes two parts of the body, that is mouth and buccal cavity. So firstly, we will look upon the mouth. So mouth is a large and it is a somewhat circular opening placed on ventral side of body below the rostrum. So we can see here, this is the rostrum, and below the rostrum on ventral side, here is the mouth. Anterior to the mouth, there are the tentacles. Oral tentacles may be called as oral tentacles. The mouth is a large and somewhat circular opening which is placed on the ventral side of the body below the rostrum. The mouth leads, or posteriorly it opens into buccal cavity, which is a spacious or somewhat wide cavity. So mouth leads into buccal cavity. Then second part, buccal cavity. Now buccal cavity is bounded by a fold of integument called oral hood. So as we have seen in the previous photograph, like this, here the anterior to the mouth there are these tentacles. These tentacles are nothing but the part of oral hood. So buccal cavity is bounded by a fold of integument called the oral hood. The free ventrolateral margin of oral hood is fringed, or you can say there are present finger-like foldings on the free ventrolateral margin of oral hood, and that are fringed with 10 to 11 pairs of stiff slender processes called oral cirri or buccal tentacles. Here in this diagram we can see the oral cirri or buccal tentacles. Here these are oral cirri or buccal tentacles. So this is a ventral view of the mouth, or you can say buccal cavity of Amphioxus, and at this ventrolateral margin you can see such 10 to 11 pairs of stiff slender processes called oral cirri or buccal tentacles. These buccal tentacles or oral cirri, they bear sensory papilla. They have sensory papilla. Each oral cirrus and the edge of oral hood are internally supported by skeletal rods. In this diagram we can also see that these dark blocks, and from these dark blocks a ray is arised. So these are skeletal rods which are the stiff and gelatinous in nature. The oral cirri form a sort of filter. These oral cirri, anterior to the mouth, it forms a sort of filter, just like a net or a sieve, which help to prevent the entry of large particles. So simply these oral cirri, they form a type of network or a net in front of the mouth, so that during feeding only a particular small size particle can enter into the mouth. The large particles are prevented from the entry into the mouth. So these oral cilia help in filter feeding. The buccal cavity or vestibule is shallow and possess a complex set of ciliated and grooved processes, which is known as Muller wheel organ or rotary organ. So here these are the part of Muller wheel organ. So in the buccal cavity which is a spacious cavity, inside this buccal cavity it possesses a complex set of such ciliated and grooved. So it is more important that these processes are ciliated and grooved, and these processes, they constitute a wheel type organ which is called as Muller wheel organ, or it is also called as rotary organ. The epithelium of wheel organ is folded to form 6 or 8 finger-like processes with a median groove. Here in this diagram, we can see that these are the processes of Muller wheel organ, 6 to 8 finger-like processes. Here, these are the processes of Muller wheel organ, and this dot line in the diagram indicates its groove. So every process in the median, it has a groove. So it has a medial groove. The mid dorsal process is largest and displaced slightly to the left side. Here again in the diagram, we can see that this is the large mid dorsal process and it is slightly bent to the left side, this one. So in the diagram, it is clearly indicated that this is a large mid dorsal process and it is displaced slightly to the left. This mid dorsal process bears a glandular ciliated groove called Hatchick's groove. Here, this ciliated groove is also labeled as Hatchick's groove. So this ciliated groove, median groove, it is Hatchick's groove, and this Hatchick's groove finally terminate here into a cavity which is called as Hatchick's pit. So here again the marking is there in the diagram about Hatchick's pit. So this Hatchick's groove finally end into this a cavity or a pit called as Hatchick's pit, which is a small depression, and this Hatchick pit secrete mucus. The buccal cavity, which is also called as vestibule, it is bounded behind, that means it is bounded on posterior side by a muscular membrane which is called velum. Here the diagram, this is muscular membrane which is called as velum, and this velum separate the buccal cavity from pharynx. So velum is simply, you can say velum is a demarcation from where the buccal cavity and pharynx are separated. This velum has in between a aperture called as enterostome, and the enterostome is a cavity just like in our buccal cavity. When we open our mouth, our buccal cavity then leads into pharynx. When we open the mouth, internally it has an opening. So likewise in this case also, the buccal cavity communicate with the pharynx with an opening called as enterostome, and that enterostome is this opening is present on the velum. The enterostome has been sometimes called true mouth, and it is actual opening which forms the mouth in larva. The velum on its posterior border, here you can see the velum on its posterior border, it has a circlet of 12 backwardly directed velar tentacles. So these are velar tentacles, and these also contain sensory papilla, and they are also ciliated. So these velar tentacles, they are backwardly directed, and 12 circlet, it is in the form of a small circle. So 12 circlet of 12 backwardly directed velar tentacles. The tentacles are covered with numerous sensory papilla. In the diagram, we can also see these small dots which are present over the surface of these velar tentacles. These are sensory papilla, and the general surface of the organ is ciliated. That means general surface of this is ciliated. So this is about the first zone, that is ingressive zone, which include mouth and buccal cavity. Then second zone of the alimentary canal, that is progressive zone. Now the progressive zone consists of pharynx and esophagus. It is the next zone after ingressive zone. That means after buccal cavity, the progressive zone starts. And this progressive zone include pharynx and esophagus. The first part is pharynx. Now, pharynx is the large part of alimentary canal which occupies about 2/3 part of the anterior body. It is laterally compressed. That means from lateral side it is compressed and remain suspended in the atrium or you can say peribranchial cavity, which surround this pharynx from all side except the dorsal side. That means we can say that pharynx is surrounded by a peribranchial cavity, or you can say pharynx is surrounded by atrium from all sides except from the dorsal side. So atrium is not present on dorsal side. On remaining all side, the atrium is present. The pharynx is divided into two parts. As it is the largest part of the body, it is divided into two parts: a short primary prebranchial chamber and a large branchial chamber. So pharynx is divided into two parts: prebranchial chamber and branchial chamber. The branchial chamber is perforated by 1800 to 250 obliquely vertical gill slits. Here in this diagram, we can see that this is the part of branchial chamber, and this part of branchial chamber contain such small openings which are called as gill slits, and these are vertical in position. The two adjacent gill slits are separated by median gill cleft. In between two adjacent gill slits, there are gill clefts. Each gill cleft is supported by skeletal rod. Here we can see each gill cleft. This is one gill cleft and it is supported by skeletal rod. The number of gill slits in young one is much less than the number in adult. So in young Amphioxus, or you can say in juvenile Amphioxus, the number of gill slits is very less. However, this increases further in adult due to subdivision of previous gill slits. So initially there are less number of gill slits, and later on these gill slits, they go on dividing and subdividing to produce or to increase the number in adult. This division is affected by downward growth of dorsal wall of gill slit, which is termed as tongue bar. So in the previous diagram, we have seen that here we can see that the gill slits are subdivided, and this subdivision is due to this downward growth. Here, this dark line which grows downward, and this downward growth is called as tongue bar, may be called as secondary gill bar or tongue bar. Initially, when there is a initial gill, that initial gill has the primary gill rods, and in between primary gill rod from the dorsal surface, here again the dorsal wall, it migrate or grows downward and produces a tongue like bar which is called as secondary gill bar or tongue bar. The original gill slits are therefore called primary gill bars, while the later subdivided gill slits are known as secondary gill slits, or which are supported by secondary gill bars. Thus, the secondary gill bar alternate with primary gill bars. So, in position, primary gill bar, then secondary gill bar, then primary gill bar, then secondary bar. In this way, primary, secondary, such type of alternate position is there in the pharynx about the gill bars. The primary and secondary gill bars are interconnected by trans connections called as synaptically. So transversely, this primary and secondary gill bars, they are transversely connected by a synaptically. So here in this diagram, it is clearly seen the tongue bar, which is growing downward. So primary gill bar, and in between the two primary gill bar, there is a growth of tongue bar, and that tongue bar grows posteriorly downward on the ventral side. So gill bars and the synaptically, they are supported by skeletal rod. The rod of primary bars are forked. Here in the diagram again we can see that the primary bar, the wall of the ventral end, free end of primary bar, they are forked at their ventral extremities. while the rod of secondary bar here, again in this diagram, the wall of secondary bar, it is not forked. So wall of primary bar is forked and wall of secondary bar is not forked. The synaptically also contains skeletal rod. So transverse here from here, such transverse connection may be present. This diagram is not showing the transverse connection, but in previous diagram we have shown the transverse connection between primary and secondary gill bar. So if there is a transverse connection, that also contains the skeletal rod. The central core of gill bar is filled with connective tissue and blood vessels and nerve fibers. The gill bars are lined with cilia all over the surface. So in the previous slide, in the previous diagram here, look at this diagram. All over the surface there are cilia, and in the center it has a blood vessel. Likewise here, these are lateral cilia, here a skeletal rod. This is the synapticulum between two gill bars. Okay, and these are the frontal cilia which are larger in size. Okay, so the gill bars are lined with cilia all over. The cilia on the inner or pharyngeal slides are especially long and are called as frontal cilia. Now just we have seen that the on the front side, the frontal cilia which are larger in size. The dorsal and ventral part of pharyngeal wall are not perforated and constitute the hyperpharyngeal groove and hypopharyngeal groove, which are this hypopharyngeal groove also called as endostyle. These terminate independently of one another posteriorly, but anteriorly they are connected by peripharyngeal ciliated bands. This hyperpharyngeal groove, also known as epipharyngeal groove, is predominantly ciliated groove which is present on the mid dorsal line. Posteriorly, it opens into esophagus. The hypopharyngeal groove or endostyle runs up to esophagus in the line. Here there is a spelling mistake. It should be hypopharyngeal groove or endostyle, which runs up to esophagus in the line with 4 longitudinal tracts. So here we can see there are 4 longitudinal tracts. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So it has 4 longitudinal tracts of glandular cells which are separated from each other due to presence of ciliary cells. So these 1, 2, 3 and 4 longitudinal tracts, they are separated by ciliary cells. The median row possess very long cilia. Here these are the median cilia, and this median row contain very long cilia. The 2 gelatinous plates are situated below the endostyle. These are gelatinous plates which are present below the endostyle. Skeletal plates present below the endostyle. The glandular cells secrete mucus. These glandular cells present in the endostyle, they secrete mucus, and there are now enough evidence to support the fact that endostylar cells are capable to bind iodine from the seawater. This may lead to assumption that the endostyle may be homologous to thyroid gland of vertebrate, which but there is no evidence that iodine binding cells leads to the synthesis of thyroid hormone in Amphioxus. So it is only assumption. So pharynx lead into esophagus. Posteriorly, this pharynx then continues, as we have already seen that epipharyngeal groove posteriorly continues into esophagus. Then next part of progressive zone, that is esophagus. So esophagus is a short, narrow and tubular structure internally lined with ciliated epithelium. Esophagus, it is a short tube which is narrow and internally it is lined with ciliated epithelium. Here in this diagram we can see the endostyle which is present here. Okay, then this is peripharyngeal band, this is epipharyngeal groove. These are here there are frontal cilia, atrial cells present here, lateral cilia are present here, gill bar. Okay, so this is a transverse section of the pharynx of Amphioxus. Then we are going to see the next zone, that is degressive zone of alimentary canal. It includes intestine. Degressive zone includes intestine. The intestine is a tubular organ. It is tube-like organ. It is long as pharynx. The length of intestine is as long as pharynx. It remains suspended from the dorsal body wall by dorsal mesenteries in the atrial cavity. It is differentiated. That means intestine is differentiated into three parts. That is a wide anterior part, midgut. Middle part is short, which is called ileocolon ring, and posterior part is a tapering, which is called hindgut. So intestine is divided into three parts: midgut, ileocolon ring, and hindgut. The midgut has a crescentric lateral ciliated tract on right lateral side. So this is, in this diagram we can see, this is the part of pharynx, here is esophagus, and from here the midgut start. That means from here to here there is, you can say, intestine. So midgut, this one is ileocolon ring and this one is hindgut. So midgut, it has a crescentric ciliated tract on the right lateral side. The cilia of this lateral ciliary tract, they beat downward here. You can see the cilia beat downward like this here, and they will push the food into this midgut diverticum. With this arrows, it is seen that the food which is directed from pharynx, it enters into esophagus. From esophagus, then it enters into midgut, and from midgut, then it circulates back up to the remaining part of the midgut. So firstly, it is directed into diverticulum, midgut diverticulum. The midgut diverticulum arises from the junction of esophagus and midgut. It, again, in this diagram, it is seen that the midgut, this is midgut diverticulum, and this midgut diverticulum arises from the junction of esophagus and midgut. So from here it arises. The midgut follows the ileocolon ring. Posteriorly, midgut follows the ileocolon ring, which is heavily ciliated. The cilia beat backward and downward on the left side and forward and upward on the right side. So in the ileocolon ring here in this ileocolon ring, the cilia, they move likewise. Whenever we move any part like this, so naturally the part is rotated like this. So when we move like this, one in downward and forward, and second in upward, one is downward and backward, and second is upward and forward. So likewise, when we move our hand like this, the part in between these two hands will be rotated. So similar is the mechanism of beating in ileocolon ring. When the cilia of ileocolon ring, they beat, the cilia on left side, they beat backward and downward, while the cilia on right side, they beat forward and upward. And this ciliary action rotate the mucous cord which contain food. Then last part of alimentary canal, that is egressive zone. So egressive zone is the posterior most part of the hindgut, and it is heavily ciliated and may be termed as rectum. The rectum opens out to a small circular aperture called as anus. The anus is situated at the base of caudal fin, as we have already seen in the external features of Amphioxus. So anus is situated at the base of caudal fin on ventral side. It has anal sphincter. So this is all about the alimentary canal of Amphioxus. In next lecture, we will see the further part. Thank you.